Honorable members, prayers. Almighty God, we humbly beseech thee to look with favor upon this Parliament of the Republic of Ghana. Grant that it may perform its high duty as in thy sight. Give divine guidance to the President of the Republic. Endow members of Parliament and ministers of state with discernment and vision, integrity and courage, that through the labors of government, this land and people may be well and truly served, and that good purposes for the common human life be realized in our midst. O God, grant us a vision of our country, fair as it might be, a country of righteousness, where none shall wrong his neighbor, a country of plenty, where evil and wayward, a country of brotherhood, where all success shall be founded on service and honor shall be given to the deserving, a country of peace, where government shall rest on the will of the people and the love for the common good. Bless the efforts of those who struggle to make this vision a living reality. Inspire and strengthen our people, that they may give time, thought, and sacrifice to speed the day of the coming beauty of Ghana and Africa. Amen. Honorable members, today I am in Daboya, Marikambo, and I want all of you to know that these adornments I wear for and on your behalf are donations from Ghanaians. They are not from your goods and services budget. This is a very clear, open parliament. I don't want to hear any gossip that these are funded by goods and services budget of parliament. No. It's from the good hearts of our people. They enjoy the change. And so they like the identity, they like the fact that we are going traditional and we are marketing our costume. So they are coming up and donating these things for my use, for and on your behalf. And so I take this opportunity to thank Ghanaians on your behalf and on my part for not only on daily basis listening and participating in what we are doing, but also investing in Parliament. and I think we need to applaud their efforts. Open Parliament Initiative. We move on to item, which is correction of votes and proceedings and official reports. We'll start with the correction of votes and proceedings of Tuesday, 14th February 2023, page 1. Page 2. Page 3. Honorable Samuel Abu Jinapop. You've been on your feet for some time, so I thought maybe you wanted to make corrections. Okay. Page 4. Page 5. Page 6. Page 7. Page 8. Page 9. Page 10. Page 11. Yes, page 11. Honorable Member for Wa West.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Page 11, question that was answered, question 1431, item 2. It is reported that the following question having been overtaken by events. The response was that that particular question had been answered earlier, and it was repeated. And that was the reason why it wasn't supposed to be asked again, not that it was overtaken by events. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Yes, table office, page 11, under question 1431, you have Roman 2. That's what the honorable member is addressing. And that was the situation, that the question had been answered earlier on. It's not that it was overtaken by events. So please, get that correction done. Page 12, page 13, page 14, page 15, page 16, page 17, page 18, page 19, page 21, page 22. Yes, honorable member.
Mr. Speaker, page 22, item 1. Opening. The committee met on Friday, 10 February 2023 at 2:50 p.m. and held discussions on its agenda to consider His Excellency the President's nomination for ministerial appointments and deputy ministerial appointments. Because that day there was also a communication on deputy ministerial appointments.
Yeah. Yes, so ministerial and deputy ministerial. Yes.
Then item 3.
In attendance.
In attendance, Mr. Kwame Govins Abuja. Kwame Govins Abuja was captured as honorable MP, but he's not only an MP, but also minority chief whip.
Yes. So his position. Fantastic.
Table office, take note of the correction. Deputy ministers are not ministers. So kindly recognize that category. If you are a deputy minister, you are a deputy minister. It's only when you are a deputy regional minister, then by the constitutional definition, you are a minister. But if you are deputy minister of a sector, you are not a minister. That is by the constitutional definition. It's not me saying it. Honorable members, we now move to page 23. Yes, please.
I'm grateful, Right Honourable Speaker. Right Honourable Speaker, the second paragraph under item number 1, Committee of Selection. I do not know if our clerks think that the Right Honourable Speaker's name is too long, but the famous Sumana has been omitted. Right Honourable Speaker and Chairman of the committee, Mr. Alban Sumana Kingsford Bagde, presided. Sumani has been omitted. So, Mr. Speaker, that amendment should be made. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Okay, thanks so much. Please, the Sumana is very important. Alban is a Christian name. The Sumana is my local name. Kingsford is some English. I don't know the meaning. Yes. And the Bagui is my surname. So please, even if you forget about Kingsford, I won't bother. But for Sumana is very important. It's not Sumani, it's Sumana. Yes.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, where your name has been shortened. On the second line, the committee met on Tuesday, 14th February at 3 p.m. and recomposed the membership of the selection committee. Delete selected and insert selection.
Selection.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
You are correct. The selection committee, not selected committee. Table office did the right correction. Yes, please.
Well, Right Honourable Speaker, my understanding of this rendition is that the selection committee met and recomposed membership of selected committees, some selected committees, not the membership of the selection committee. They were not recomposing their own membership, but of selected committees. So I think that this rendition is correct and should not be amended. Because that's the understanding I have. Unless it was a meeting to recompose membership of the selection committee. I thought it was a meeting to recompose membership of some selected committees, as has been accurately captured here.
Honorable members, they will have to take it again. What you said is right, but the selected committees include the committee of selection. The committee itself, we have to look at its composition. We have to recompose it. And so they need to do more to capture both. What the First Deputy Speaker said is right, and what Honorable Ablakwa has also stated is right. So please, table office, take note and do the proper thing. The last page, page 24. Yes, Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, if I heard the member for South Tongue, North Tongue, it says what is captured here is appropriate, if I heard him right. We recompose the membership of some select committees of the House, not selected committees. Some select committees. Committees are either select or standing. We don't have anything called selected committees. It is the committee that is referring to the committee of selection met on Tuesday, 14 February 2023, and recompose the membership of some select committees, not selected committees. Mr. Speaker, that is how it should be done.
I think that the Majority Leader, I think something excluded your consideration, because yesterday we also considered standing committees. It was not only select committees, we also recomposed on standing committees. Yes. That's why I said they should reconstruct the whole paragraph. Okay. Honorable members, page 24. Yes, please.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Page 24, Roman numeral 4. The name of the acting deputy clerk, the middle name has not been properly captured.
Yes, the honorable member is right. Mr. Ebenezer Ahuma Jetro is not properly captured, but he decided not to capture his name properly. So, but you've done well by drawing our attention to it. Honorable members, the votes and proceedings of the fifth sitting held on Tuesday, 14 February 2023, as corrected, are adopted as the true records of proceedings. Now, we have 2 copies of the official reports. I have 2. One dated 28th June 2022 and the other 9th February 2023. I hope members have their copies. We'll start from the 28th June 2022. Any corrections? Yes, Honorable Ablakwa.
I'm grateful, Right Honourable Speaker. Right Honourable Speaker, I want to raise an observation. The 28 June 2022 official report, the font size has changed from what is the usual practice. And Mr. Speaker, if you wait, the second official report, the 9th February, you notice that the font size is bolder and more legible. But this one, the 28th June, is so small, very tiny, and it makes reading very, very difficult. I don't know why the 28th June official report took this turn, Mr. Speaker. So maybe just for your guidance so that moving forward, because it's very, very difficult to read, very, very difficult. And it's the first time I'm noticing this font size. I'm grateful, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, honourable member, you are right. So, official reports, please take note. Let's maintain the same font. Any more corrections or observations? If not, honourable members, the official report of 28th June 2022, which fell on a Tuesday, is hereby adopted as the true record of proceedings. We now move to the 9th February 2023. Any corrections? Yes, please.
Well, right, Honourable Speaker, at column 15, the second paragraph, my contribution to the statement made, I indicated that the last but 3 line, that he was appointed an ambassador, not on ambassador. So the correction should be made accordingly. So it will give meaning to the statement. That is the second paragraph at column 15. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, official report, please take note of this correction. Yes, Honourable Kofi Adams.
Thank you very much, Speaker. Speaker, column 16, I think the 4th paragraph. Mr. Kofi I. Adams, NDC. The constituency written here is Central Tongue. I have not changed my constituency yet. So, Mr. Speaker, it should be Wim constituency. Thank you very much.
Yes. Honourable Blackwell.
Right, Honourable Speaker, for clarity, I heard the Honourable say that he hasn't changed his constituency yet. Is he intending to change his constituency, Mr. Speaker? This is the House of Records. Primaries are around the corner. So he must be very clear with his pronouncement.
He has no authority to change a constituency. Yes, so honourable members. Yes, Honourable Kofi Adams.
Mr. Speaker, I have no intention of changing my representation from Wim to any other constituency. Thank you very much.
Honourable members, the official report of Thursday, 9 February 2023, as corrected, represent the true record of proceedings. So we move now to item 5, Questions? We have 10 questions. And I'll call on the Minister to be appropriately seated. The first question, question number 295, stands in the name of Mr. Roxanne Nelson Eche Kwame Dafiemako, the Honorable Member for South Dai. Honorable Member, you may ask your question now. Honorable members, in the absence of the Honorable Member, we move on to the next question. Question number 362, which stands in the name of Mr. Eric Aful, the Honorable Member for Amenfi West. Honorable Member, you may ask your question now.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to ask the Minister for Sanitation and Water Resources the plans the ministry has to expand the community water program to cover the entire community of Asankragua in the Amenfi West constituency. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the Asankragua water system was completed in the year 2002 by the European Union Government of Ghana funded small town water projects. The water system has its raw water source from 2 mechanized boreholes with a combined discharge of 28 cubic meters per hour transmitted into a 170 cubic meter high level tank to assist in water distribution to consumers in the served areas. The system was handed over to the community through the district assembly under the community ownership management policy. Major components of the water system have deteriorated over time due to inadequate investments to undertake major repairs and maintenance. This has affected the operational efficiency of the system, thus rendering it suboptimal with a consequential impact on water service delivery within the environs of Asankragua. The Community Water and Sanitation Agency took over the management of the system in September 2018 and has invested some funds to improve the water supply situation in the town. Mr. Speaker, the Government of Ghana, through the Community Water and Sanitation Agency, has earmarked funding for the reconstruction of the water system at a total cost of 24,755,113 Ghana cedis, 33 pesos. A one-year contract has been awarded in 2 lots for the reconstruction of the water system to serve the targeted 26,436 people. Mr. Speaker, work is progressing steadily and is expected to be completed in December 2023. Amwaman, Asankransa, and Jaman, which are nearby communities, will all be served by the rehabilitated Asankragua water system when completed. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Member, any supplementary question?
Let me thank you, Mr. Speaker, once again. Let me thank the Minister for her positive answer to my question by expressing that this water facility will serve about 26,000 people with an amount of about 25 million Ghana cedis for a contract of 1 year. Very wonderful. But Mr. Speaker, apart from Asankrasa, Amwoman, German mentioned as beneficiary communities water projects, I'm asking the Minister, is the Ministry still considering other nearby communities such as Mosiaso, Asankra, Faben, Odumase, Sikanti, and other nearby villages, as promised. The question is, as promised. The last time I posed a similar question to the ministry. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I appreciate the reminder from the honourable member. I will definitely check on the towns as promised, in the sense that it's the policy of government to make sure all towns and villages en route the pipeline will be served. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable member, any further supplementary?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'm shocked that the minister is now going to find out again. You promised the whole country, Amenfi West, that these communities will be met with their needs of water, needs. So I don't know why you even promised before the House that you are going to help these communities by using this year's budget. If you remember that very day, that these communities will be met by your budget. So why are you not going to find out? I want to know. Thank you.
Well, yes, Minister, if you got the supplementary, I'd bring it. But if you have got some supplementary question and you want to answer, you can go ahead. Yes, you can go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I am only saying to re-emphasize that I need to cross-check, because I promised last year, definitely note was taken. I want to be very sure before I make a statement on that. But definitely, these towns will be looked at. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Any more supplementary?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm okay.
Honourable members, we move to question number 575. Stands in the name of Dr. Kobina Donko, the honourable member for Kru East. Honourable member, you may ask your question now.
Mr. Speaker, thank you for the opportunity to ask the Minister for Sanitation and Water Resources when the broken down water system for Yeji and Parabo Sawaba will be restored. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Yeji water system was constructed in 2006, taking its raw water source from the Volta River. The system provided the water needs of the community under the management of a private operator, Mishre's TBL Resources Limited. In 2010, the water intake point for the system got flooded, resulting in damage to the pump house, surface pumps and treatment plant, all located at Yeji in Suano. Water supply to the community was thus disrupted, and since the private operator could not make adequate investments to undertake major repairs and maintenance, it has affected the operational efficiency of the system, making it economically not viable to the operator, who consequently abandoned the management of the water system in 2011. Mr. Speaker, as part of efforts to ensure efficient provision and management of water systems, the CWSA took over the management of the system in 2018 and sought to rehabilitate and improve the operational efficiency. The government of Ghana, through the CWSA, awarded a contract for the rehabilitation and expansion of the system at a total cost of 5,045,390 Ghana cedis, 59 pesos. Currently, Mr. Speaker, the contractor has completed all works and final inspection. Taking over by CWSA of the project is underway. Mr. Speaker, in the case of the Parambo-Sawaba water system, which was constructed in 2008, it was also affected by floods, resulting in disruption of water supply to the community. The private operator, Mrs. ABCO Limited, could not repair the damaged system, abandoned the facility in 2011. As part of the drive towards efficient management of water systems in the country, the CWSA carried out an assessment of the water system in 2022 with the aim of reconstructing it. The assessment indicated that the intake and pump control room were damaged and required complete replacement. The treatment plant was also partially damaged and so required rehabilitation. Mr. Speaker, the CWSA is currently considering packaging the works for a contract as either an extension of water from the completed Yeji water system in Parambo, Sawaba, or the reconstruction of the intake and control room completely and rehabilitating the treatment plant at Parambo, Sawaba. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Honourable Member, any supplementary?
Yes, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to find out from the Minister whether in citing projects, local knowledge of the environment is taken into consideration. I ask this in connection with the Yeji project, where the Minister says the intake point was flooded and is now under the lake. Mr. Speaker, was local knowledge of the flooding pattern of the Volta Lake taken into account? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Indeed, I can confirm that local knowledge was taken into consideration. But we all know the prevalence of difficulties associated with climate change, with behavioral change, with force majeure, which can also bring about some of these difficulties. So indeed, feasibility was done, local knowledge was used. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes.
Mr. Speaker, I want to state categorically that if the Minister says local knowledge was taken into account, then that knowledge was not only defective, but has caused the people of Ghana a lot of money. The Volta River floods at a particular season, and in every 5 years, there's a level where the flooding gets to. If you go and cite the intake machinery on the, for lack of a better word, on the nose of the Volta River, at the bank of the Volta River, and that machine, you don't have this. Leader, you don't have the mic. You don't have the... So, Mr. Speaker, I want to tell the Minister that by not giving sufficient attention to local knowledge, the people of Yeji have been denied water for more than 15 years.
Honourable Member, because you are a senior member, I just decided to allow you to go on, but that is out of order. You are now debating. Look at our rules. That is not permitted. You are to ask a supplementary question to your main question. Debating about whether local knowledge was taken or not taken is not the appropriate thing to do during this period.
I'm guided, Mr. Speaker, but it is important, since this is a house of record, for facts to be stated rather than non-facts. And that is why, but I ask my second substantive question. When will the people of Paramos, Sawaba, have their water restored? The people of Paramos, Sawaba have had the system in operation operational for more than 15 years. When will that be restored? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Yes, indeed. The water system had a problem in 2011. And since that time, I'm sure the difficulties have been. But we have now done studies to put things in order. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, last supplementary.
Mr. Speaker, the minister says they have now conducted studies. Mr. Speaker, will it be too much to ask the minister to share the studies with the district assembly that has jurisdiction over the area, so that as a member of district assembly, I can at least have a copy of this, the study done?
Yes, Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. There's a new policy whereby CWSA takes over badly managed water systems, and this is one of them. So the studies, I'm sure, can be provided later. But as I stand here as a House of Records, I cannot give offhand those figures and statements. Thank you.
Honourable members, we move to question number 913. Stands in the name of Mr. Idi Kofi Adams, Honourable Member of Parliament for Buem. Honourable Member, you may ask your question now.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to ask this question. I rise to ask the Minister for Sanitation and Water Resources what plans the ministry has to improve potable water supply in the Jasikan municipality in the Oti region.
Yes, Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the Jasikan water supply system was constructed in 1958, with subsequent improvements in 1976 and 1996. The system is based on the abstraction of groundwater from 4 boreholes with an installed capacity of 576 cubic meters per day. The current production from the borehole is 200 cubic meters per day, as against the current water demand of 1,200 cubic meters per day. Currently, only 2 of the boreholes are in operation, with the other 2 out of operation due to a potential cave-in based on the evidence of mud in the extraction pipeline, which has led to damage of the borehole pumps. Mr. Speaker, in the short term, and as recent as June 2022, the Ghana Water Company Limited completed the extension of 1 kilometer of 75-millimeter distribution pipelines with internally generated funds at a cost of 132,000 Ghana cedis within the Jasikan municipality to ensure improved water supply. Mr. Speaker, in the medium to long term, and in order to bridge the demand-supply gap, as well as to ensure improved water supply in the Jasikan municipality, the Ghana Water Company Limited has commissioned the drilling unit to commence the assessment of the integrity and the possible redevelopment of the existing, including the drilling of 2 additional boreholes. The assessment is scheduled to be completed by the end of the second quarter of this year. Upon completion of the assessment, funds will be made available for the expansion of the system. Mr. Speaker, the completion and implementation of these planned activities will definitely improve the water supply to the Jasikan municipality. Thank you.
Yes, Honourable Member, any supplementary?
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Speaker, I wish to thank the Minister for the elaborate answer. But, Speaker, you have given indication as to what is happening in Jasikan. But the municipality has more than just Jasikan. So what is being done to cover the other towns in the Jasikan municipality? Thank you.
Yes, Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The honourable member's question was specific, town-specific. That's what is being done for the Jasikan municipality. These other towns can be discussed person to person, then we can look at that. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Again, additionally, I can also promise that we'll look at these other towns and see what can be done on routes as we supply the water. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, honourable member.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I beat the minister because it's question time. The municipality is Jasikan, that's how it is called. But we have a number of towns that makes up the municipality, like Okaja, Krum, Bodada, Tetema, Ayoma, are all part of Jasikan municipality. So they make up the municipality. But your answer is only about Jasikan township. That's why I asked about the other towns. But I will reach out to you so that we will see how we can cover the other towns. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Well, in the opening paragraph, I refer to only Jasikan water supply. But throughout, the reference has been to Jasikan municipality. I think that's where there's lack of clarity. So the minister have to take that into consideration. Now we move on to question number 914. Stands in the name of Mr. Bismarck Tete Nyakun, the honourable member for Upper Manya Krobo. Please, honourable member, you may ask your question now. Honourable member, I can't hear you.
You cannot use this one.
No, it's not working. Okay. Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, I rise to ask the Minister for Sanitation and Water Resources. What plans has the Ministry to extend water from the Bukuno headworks of the Ghana Water Company Limited in Upper Manya Krobo district to other parts of the district, such as Otrope, Akatawia, and Sekeswa? Thank you, Speaker.
Yes, Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the Bukono Water Treatment Plant has a design capacity of 19,400 cubic meters per day, which is equivalent to 4.3 million gallons per day. It was completed in 2009 with funding from Belgium. As part of the works under the project, approximately 35 kilometers of transmission pipeline was laid from Bukono to Koforidua. Standpipes were also provided along the transmission pipeline to serve communities on the stretch. The Ghana Water Company Limited has drawn up a program for the extension of water to other parts of the Upper Manya Krobo district and its environs at an estimated cost of 8,612,000 Ghana cedis, which is being implemented in phases. Says Speaker, currently, the Ghana Water Company Limited has laid 16.6 kilometers of 160 millimeter HDPE pipelines from Otrope to Asase as part of the phase 1 of the program. The program, which is scheduled to be completed by the end of the second quarter of this year, will serve Asase, Nensandawa, Dawakoloa, Kono Dawa, Akatawia, Sekesua, and Otrope. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, honourable member, any supplementary?
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, we are so grateful for the Minister's response. The first phase of this project, the of the pipes, was completed in 2016. We are happy the continuation will be just in 6 months' time. That will be completed. Speaker, I want to ask,
that Asasehini is just about a kilometer to Asesewa. Asesewa is the district capital of Upper Manya. And I'll be grateful if the pipes will be extended to Asesewa so that the township will also benefit from the Ghana water system. Asesewa Township is supplied water by the Community Water Sanitation Agency, but is unable to provide for the entire community. My request is, and my question is, it is possible whether the two systems can be integrated so that it will provide enough water for Asesewa Township as well. Thank you, Speaker.
Well, we take note. It's not a supplementary question. So we'll move on to the next question. Question number 1092 stands in the name of Dr. Mark Kurt Nawani, the Member of Parliament for NABDAM. Honorable Member, you may ask your question now.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to ask the Minister for Sanitation and Water Resources when Pirungo in the Northern District will have a constructed town water system.
Yes, Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, Pelongo currently has no small town water supply system serving the community. However, there are 25 boreholes fitted with hand pumps that serve as the main water supply sources within the community. Out of these, 19 are functional. Additionally, there are 4 limited mechanized schemes, of which 3 are private. The only one owned by the District Assembly is currently not functioning. The CWSA is considering extending water from the Dusi water system in the Talensi district, which is about 2.3 kilometers to Pelongo community. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Member, any supplementary?
Yes. In the answer, it is stated that there's the intention of extending the water supply from Dusi water system in the Talensi district, which is about 2.3 kilometers to the Pirungo community. I've heard this for about, I think, up to 5 years now, and I don't know when this aspect will be implemented. Thank you.
Actually, when would they convert the considering to actual action? Yes, please.
Mr. Speaker, I would want to say that as soon as the funding is ready to be carried out, 2.3 kilometers shouldn't be a problem, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Yes, Honorable Member. Any more supplementary questions?
Yeah, Honorable Minister, Pirungo is a fast-growing town, in fact, an emerging urban center. I don't know this extension from Dusi will do, but are you considering constructing an independent small town water system in Pirungo?
Yes, Minister.
Mr. Speaker, with all due respect, I didn't get the full import of the question. If the honourable member repeats.
Are you considering constructing a small town water system for Pelugu instead of the extension from Dusi, constructing one for Pelugu itself?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We will consider that and come up with a concrete answer. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Member, any more supplementary? Thank you so much. We move on to question number 1135. Stands in the name of Ms. Helen Adwa Intoso, the Honourable Member for Karachi West. Honourable Member, you may ask your question now.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity. Mr. Speaker, I rise to ask the Minister for Sanitation and Water Resources whether the ministry has any plans to tap water from the Water Lake to give the people of Karachi regular flow of water.
The Honourable First Deputy Speaker to take the chair.
Yes, so kindly repeat your question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity. Mr. Speaker, I rise to ask the Minister for Sanitation and Water Resources whether the ministry has any plans to tap water from the Water Lake to give the people of Karachi regular flow of water.
Yes, Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the main sources of potable water for the good people of Karachi are 4 high-yielding boreholes with enough yield to meet the current water demand in the community. One of the key technical challenges with water supply in the community is the intermittent power supply from the Northern Electric Distribution Company, known as NEDCO, that greatly affects the water system's production. Additionally, most consumers are owing the water system. As at the end of December 2022, Mr. Speaker, residents owed a total of 475,472 Ghana cedis in water bills, making it difficult to manage the water system. Additionally, Mr. Speaker, the staff of the Community Water and Sanitation Agency are also constantly threatened by some groups within the community claiming ownership of the existing water system. Mr. Speaker, in the short term, plans are underway to construct a 100 cubic meter reinforced concrete tank to supply water to the high grounds at a cost of 488,442 Ghana cedis, 96 pesos. In the long term, the CWS is considering abstracting water from the Water Lake for treatment and supply to the Karachi community and its environs to improve on water supply. Thank you.
Yes.
Mr. Speaker, in the minister's answer, in the second paragraph, the minister says that residents in Karachi owe, as at December 2022, owe an amount of 475,472 Ghana cedis. Mr. Speaker, His Excellency the President said to the people of this country on the 5th of April 2020 that they were to enjoy 3 months free supply of water. The minister affirmed on the 7th of April and stated the months April, May, and June. Then in September, the minister, in a press release, extended the gratis period from September to December 31st, 2020. Mr. Speaker, my question to the minister is that this figure she quoted that the residents owe, does it include the 9 months gratis period the president promised the people of this country, which includes the people of Karachi?
Yes, Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I must place it on record that Ghana was the only country which had a visionary leader who gave free water to the good people of this country, including the good people of Kitikrachi. Obviously, you cannot bill someone for free water supplied. So this figure will not include these individuals who owe the water system. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes.
Mr. Speaker, then I'll urge the minister to cross-check her figures, because what I know is that the people, some of the areas, they have disconnected them for having not paid during for that period. So she has to cross-check her figure, because I know that my people have been billed for the free period that they were supposed to enjoy free water. Then my next question, Mr. Speaker. My next question is that, Mr. Speaker, I would like to know from the minister. She says in the short term, they're going to, there are plans underway to construct a 100 cubic meter reinforced concrete tank. I would like to know from the minister, how soon will this be done? How soon? Your short-term plans. How soon?
Honorable Minister, would you like to comment on the allegation that people have been billed during the free period?
Mr. Speaker, I'll crave your indulgence to throw some light on the bills the honourable member spoke about. Mr. Speaker, all bills that were submitted as a result of the free water was validated and paid for. If there are any arrears, that's a different kettle of fish. Mr. Speaker, we are in the process of executing this project of installing the 100 cubic meter reinforced concrete tank. We've got the costs, so in the immediate future, which is very soon, this project will be done and completed. I can assure the honourable member. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, you have one more opportunity.
Sorry, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, my question was how soon, and she said very soon. How soon is very soon?
And we may ask another question. Very soon. Are you done? Very well. I'll move on to the next question. Honorable Member for Achimda, you have to ask question number 1319. Yes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'm on my feet to ask the Minister for Sanitation and Water Resources efforts being made to improve the toilet facilities in various schools in the country, especially in that constituency, where almost all the basic schools do not have hygienic places of convenience.
Honorable Minister, question number 1319, please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I was engaged with a list of defaulters in the honorable member's constituency. That's why I hesitated in coming. Mr. Speaker, the primary responsibility for the provision of water, sanitation and hygiene wash facilities in schools lies with the Metropolitan, Municipal and District Assemblies and the Ministry of Education. The Ministry of Sanitation and Water Resources continues to advocate for adequate provision and proper management of wash facilities in schools as a means of helping to eradicate open defecation and promote sanitation for all. The Ministry, Mr. Speaker, is making great efforts to eradicate open defecation and also to provide sanitation facilities to help and augment what the MDAs are doing. Also, the Ministry of Education has, in their projects, they have to provide the wash facilities as I've stated earlier. Mr. Speaker, in conclusion, I would like to humbly appeal to all honourable members, advocates for improved wash facilities in schools in their constituencies, and urge the MMDAs to also invest in the wash facilities so that whatever we do will be an augmentation of the infrastructure. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes,
Mr. Speaker, thank you very much. Mr. Speaker, I'm wondering how the MMDAs can effectively provide these wash facilities, especially with the very distressed assemblies like Achimoda. The assembly common fund resources are not enough for them to provide these resources.
Is that a statement or was intended as a question?
It's supposed to be a question, so, because I'm sure she knows that the districts don't have enough.
Well, I think you would want to ask another question. He says that it is their responsibility unless you have evidence to the contrary. That question should be directed at the...
Very well, Mr. Speaker. Can the Minister confirm whether the collaboration she talked about with the Ministry of Education involves ensuring that plans for schools, especially the basic ones, include toilet facilities? Because we have very, very new schools that have been built without toilet facilities.
Yes, Honourable Minister, do you have that information?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I believe it is the policy, and we should continue to drum this into our systems, that buildings to be inhabited by our children or us should always have toilet facilities. Mr. Speaker, it's amazing that we have to grapple with this problem. It's rather unfortunate, but if the situation gets dire, maybe GOG directly through the ministry can help. But it is, I will reiterate with your kind permission, Mr. Speaker, that people who put up these facilities should always make sure that toilet facilities are provided, especially to our small children and the SHS pupils. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Minister, can I ask, would you want to send this as a requirement to the funding agency of classroom blocks, that before you approve any classroom block, they must provide toilet facilities as part of the project?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the clarification. I believe before permits are granted, all these facilities must be included in the scope of works. And I, at one point, engaged my colleague, Dr. Matthew Poku Prempe, when he was the Minister for Education. I'll continue to engage the other stakeholders again. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes.
Mr. Speaker, my last question. The Minister has called on MPs to be advocates for this improved wash facilities. I was wondering if the Minister or the Ministry can make available some resources to members of parliament so that we don't just remain advocates, but we can go in and help provide these facilities. Because if we have to depend on our little common fund and others that come to us to provide for these resources that have not been available originally in these schools, I'm not sure we'll be able to do it. But we can effectively provide these facilities if they find some resources for members of parliament, so we just don't remain mere advocates, but people to support her ministry and the provision of these facilities.
Yes, Honorable Minister, are you able to support the schools or the MPs to provide toilet facilities?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'll entreat honorable members that we will be working closely with them through the Community Water and Sanitation Agency. We have a component for sensitization. I will definitely do that. Because of the good work done in this space, since 2017, we haven't had any outbreak of cholera and dysentery. And we will continue to stress the need to practice good hygiene and good sanitation. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Very well. I'll proceed to the next question. It's in the name of the Honorable Member for Yendi, Umar Farouk Ali Mahama.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I appreciate the opportunity to ask this question on behalf of the constituency Yendi. I rise to ask the Minister of Sanitation and Water Resources what accounts for the delay and the Yendi project, status of the work of the project, and when the project is expected to commence. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the existing surface water supply with an installed capacity of 3,240 cubic meters per day and based on raw water abstraction from the Dakar River was commissioned in 1961. The water supply system has, over the years, not seen any major rehabilitation and expansion works to be able to meet the ever-increasing demand for potable water in Yendi and its environs. The current average water production from the plant is 1,200 cubic meters per day. In 2015, Mr. Speaker, Ghana Water Company Limited, in its bid to improve water supply to Yendi and its environs, drilled 3 mechanized boreholes to supplement the surface water supply system at that time. Currently, the combined average production is 2,340 cubic meters per day, as against an estimated demand of 7,227 cubic meters per day, which is projected to increase to 15,000 cubic meters per day. Mr. Speaker, with a shortfall in water supply, Ghana Water Company Limited is only able to ration the available water within the communities in the supply areas. Mr. Speaker, in April 2019, the government of Ghana, under President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, secured and signed a $30 million credit facility agreement with the Indian government through the Indian Exim Bank for the upgrading of the potable water supply system in Yendi. Mr. Speaker, the scope of works for the project includes, inter alia, the construction of a 15,000 cubic meter per day conventional water treatment plant. Also, it involves the construction of 25-kilometer transmission pipeline and also the construction of a 50-kilometer distribution pipeline. It also involves the construction of storage reservoirs within the beneficiary communities and also the rehabilitation of the existing water treatment plants. However, pleased to announce, Mr. Speaker, that the consultant for the design and construction supervision of works, Mrs. Wapos of India, has successfully completed the detailed project report, and it has received a no objection approval from the Indian Exim Bank. Following the approval, Mr. Speaker, the Indian Exim Bank launched an invitation for pre-qualification of engineering, procurement and construction EPC contractors on June 21, 2022. with last date of submission of application being August 1st, 2022. The bank subsequently informed Ghana Water Company Limited of the list of pre-qualified EPC contractors in order for Ghana Water Company Limited and the consultant to commence the procurement process. Upon receipt of the shortlisted EPC contractors on December 15, 2022, Ghana Water Company Limited proceeded to invite the shortlisted firms to submit their bids. The deadline for bid submission is February 21st, 2023. Mr. Speaker, upon the successful procurement of the contractor by close of the first quarter of this year, construction works are expected to commence by the second quarter of the year, with completion set at 30 months from the commencement date. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Honourable Member, the follow-up question. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, in the Minister's response, she indicated that work will commence in the first quarter of the year. The good people of Yendi have serious water challenges and they are suffering from water crisis. And we wanted to find out from the Minister if there are any measures that can be put in place in the interim and later of the contractor, so that we have some short-term measure to reduce the pressures of these water challenges in my constituency, Yendi. Thank you very much.
Yes, Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Yes, indeed. Whatever we'll do to alleviate the suffering of the people will be done. And also, I want to place it on record and commend the Honourable Member of Parliament for Yendi for his efforts in drilling more boreholes to help the people. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Honourable. You're done. Very well. The last question is in the name of the Honourable Member for Brekum East, Mr. Nelson Cherry.
All right, Speaker, thank you very much for the opportunity given to me to ask the Minister for Sanitation and Water Resources the measures the ministry is putting in place to provide adequate refuse bins or containers to the Brekum East Municipal Assembly for the control of refuse menace that is engulfing the municipality. Thank you.
Yes, Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the primary responsibility for the collection and disposal of waste are the core mandates of the various MMDAs. How the Ministry of Sanitation and Water Resources, as a policy, has also launched a program to provide 25,000 bins to be supplied across the length and breadth of this nation. I can assure the honourable member that as soon as we are through with the processes, his area and other areas of other MPs will be supplied with some of these bins. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Honourable Member.
Speaker, I would like to thank the Minister for her responses and thank you too for Dr. Again.
Very well. Yes, Honourable Leader.
Right, Honourable Speaker, with your indulgence, Honourable Dapamepo was in the House, but has since been called for a meeting somewhere. If you give me the permission, I'll ask the first question on his behalf.
No. Yes, do you want to say something to that, Honourable Leader?
Mr. Speaker, just for the records, that Right Honourable Speaker called Honourable Dapamepo, and we moved past that. So, and at the time you were in the chamber. So I just want to know whether he's just brought an application through you to Mr. Speaker. Just for the records.
Very well. It means you don't have any objection. Just want information for the record. You will share it. But, Honourable Minister, I was going to discharge you, but I will allow the leader to ask The first question which was deferred on behalf of the Honourable Member for South Day. Yes.
Honourable Speaker, I'm very grateful for your kindness. Honourable Speaker, I rise to ask the Minister for Sanitation and Water Resources what concrete steps the government has taken to extend potable water to the Tongo and Parliament traditional areas in Southern.
Yes, Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, Palimeduga and Tongo are villages located in the South Dai constituency in the Volta region with a total population of approximately 6,500 inhabitants. The communities are currently served potable water by hand-dug wells and some mechanized boreholes. In April last year, the Ghana Water Company Limited received a request for assistance to supply pipe-borne water to the aforementioned communities. The operations team of Ghana Water Company Limited in the Volta region conducted a feasibility on connecting these communities to the water supply system from the Kweve headworks. The assessment concluded that the communities are 15 kilometers away from the Kweve headworks and connection will require a 12-inch transmission pipeline over the distance. Due to the distance involved and the already challenged water supply situation in the whole municipality, which is supplied from the same headworks, the idea to supply the communities from the Kweve plant was deemed not feasible from an operational standpoint. Consequently, Mr. Speaker, another feasibility was carried out on how to serve the communities from the Dodi headworks. To this end, the following pipeline extensions are required to meet the water supply needs of the communities. 5.5 kilometer of 110 millimeter HDPE mains extension from
Honourable Mr. Speaker, to take the chair.
Yes, you may go.
To this end, Mr. Speaker, the following pipeline extensions are required to meet the water supply needs of the communities. A 5.5 kilometer of 110 millimeter HDPE mains extension from Boso to Palimeduga and Top. 1.2 kilometer of 160 millimeter HDPE distribution network improvements within Anu and Boso. The estimated cost of the above works is 1,158,811 Ghana cedis, 29 pesos. The works are scheduled to commence in the third quarter of the year with funding from the Ghana Water Company Limited's internally generated funds. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, any supplementary question?
Yes, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I thank the Minister for the good work she's done by looking for an alternative source of supplying water to Kalime and surrounding areas. Mr. Speaker, I'm also happy to see that she's already gone ahead to provide estimated cost of the project. May I find out from the Minister when procurement would actually start for this project, since she said the works, she's got a timeline within which the work will start. When procurement will start for us to meet that deadline, Mr. Speaker?
Yes, Minister.
Mr. Speaker, as I stated in the answer, in the third quarter of this year, so the definite date, commencement, the procurement. Mr. Speaker, the procurement processes, I'm sure, are in progress. Thank you.
Yes, any further supplementary?
Mr. Speaker, we are okay.
Thank you so much. Honorable members, we've come to the end of question time. And on your behalf, I want to thank the Minister very much for attending upon the House to respond to these 10 good questions. Honorable Minister, we are grateful. Honorable members, I have to vary the order of business to allow a policy statement to be made, and then we'll take some urgent matters before the First Deputy Speaker come back to preside. The Minister, I should say the President's representative at the Ministry of Trade and Industry, who is now the caretaker minister, has a policy statement to make. And definitely, if you look at outstanding orders, that comes under Order 70. And so I'll allow him to make the statement, and then members will have the opportunity to make some comments. So the Minister for Trade and Industry is given the opportunity now to do so.
Mr. Speaker, I thank you sincerely for the opportunity to make important policy statement. As Caretaker Minister for the Ministry of Trade and Industry, on behalf of the government of President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo on consumer protection in Ghana, one of the most important right issues in a free market like ours. Mr. Speaker, exactly 1 month from today, on 15th March 2023, the world will be celebrating Consumer Rights Day, a day set aside to raise global awareness about consumer rights and needs, to advocate for the respect and protection of the rights of all consumers, and to protest against market abuses and social injustice that undermine consumer rights. Mr. Speaker, the issue of consumer protection, though of recent development, has been the concern of governments from ancient times. In most traditional societies, families produce for themselves majority of the goods they consume, and for the goods they could not produce, a barter system ensued, a fair exchange of goods for goods to balance what each family could not produce. With increasing trade in barter, there was a need to regulate trade to ensure what was generally termed, quote, measure for measure, end quote, and promote fair trading of goods. In the United Kingdom, for example, Mr. Speaker, as far back as the 10th century, under the reign of King Edgar, prior to the Norman conquest, a law was proclaimed to control the weight, measure, and prices of wool. In subsequent years, similar enactments were made for bread, corn, meat, and a host of other essential commodities. But it was the Sale of Goods Act of 1893 which formed the basis of present-day consumer protection in the United Kingdom. In the United States, Mr. Speaker, consumer protection is usually traced to the Federal Trade Commission Act of 1914, which established the Federal Trade Commission to, among others, regulate unfair methods of competition in commerce. Today, Mr. Speaker, most countries have consumer protection policies and legislation that secure the rights of consumers against unfair practices, such as Australia's Competition and Consumer Act 2010, Canada's Consumer Protection Safety Act 2010, the UK's Consumer Rights Act 2015, South Africa's Consumer Protection Act 2018, and India's Consumer Protection Act 2019. Most jurisdictions have also special institutions that deal with consumers, such as the Competition and Consumer Commission of Australia, the Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Commission of Nigeria, the Competition Commission of Kenya, and the Competition and Consumer Commission of Singapore. In our case, Mr. Speaker, attempts to protect consumers predate our attainment of independence with statutes like the Weights and Measures Ordinance 1896, Cap 188, and the Control of Prices Regulations 1949, number 25 of 1949. These attempts counter independence with the enactment of the Rent Stabilization Act 1962, Act 109, Price Control Act 1962, Act 113, and the Sale of Goods Act 1962, Act 137. As remarked by the venerable jurist, His Lordship Justice Datiban, in his article titled Legislative Control of Freedom of Contract, and I quote, "The Control of Prices Act 1962 was a statutory weapon adopted by the government to combat the market forces in the interest of consumers and the economy," end quote. Mr. Speaker, despite these efforts, we have not been able to develop over the years a single legislation for the protection of consumers. Currently, our legal and regulatory framework for the protection of consumer rights is fragmented in different pieces of legislation, amongst them being the Public Utilities Regulatory Commission Act 1997, Act 538, the National Petroleum Authority Act 205, Act 691, the Electronic Communications Act 208, Act 775, the Public Health Act 2012, Act 851, and recently, the Ghana Standards Authority Act 2020, Act 1078. This phenomenon has led to the creation of different bodies with different jurisdictions over different aspects of consumer protection, such as the National Communications Authority in respect of electronic communications, the National Petroleum Authority in respect of petroleum products, the Energy Commission and the Public Utilities Regulatory Commission in respect of the supply, distribution, and sale of electricity and natural gas, and the Bank of Ghana in respect of banking services. Mr. Speaker, this state of affairs has long been recognized. It has led to a significant part of the market remaining unregulated in terms of consumer protection, leading to a constant violation of consumer rights without adequate remedy. In those areas that seem to be regulated, there are instances of jurisdictional conflict among the various regulators, leaving the consumer with no remedy. In short, consumers are not getting value for money. For example, today, it is not uncommon in our country, Mr. Speaker, to enter into shops and see signs such as, quote, "Goods sold are not returnable," end quote. So what protection does the man who buys clothes from this shop, which do not fit, get? What is the remedy given to the woman who buys a phone charger and gets home only to notice that it does not work? And what protection is given to someone who consumes food or beverage and suffers injury thereafter? In most cases, consumers who seek to vindicate their rights have resorted to the court, relying on common law principles of contract and tort, which impose a higher evidentiary burden on the consumer. For example, Mr. Speaker, in the case of Nana Teburi Jansa III versus Accra Brewery, suit number 81366805, decided by the Court of Appeal on 10th March 2006, a consumer who bought 2 bottles of Castle Mill Stout and suffered injuries after consuming half a bottle of the drink was left without a remedy on the ground that he could evidence of the manufacturer. In the words of the court, Mr. Speaker, and I quote, "The plaintiff did not lead evidence to establish a nexus between his permanent and temporary health injuries and his consumption of the defendant's manufactured Castle Mill Stout," end quote. Mr. Speaker, these complexities, coupled with the general lack of consumer awareness, lack of access to the absence of low-cost, quick, and accessible fora and methods for resolution of consumer complaints, low level of consumer activism, and considerable institutional capacity constraints require a legislative intervention to ensure that the rights of consumers are adequately protected. The respected professor of law at the University of Ghana, Professor Christian Dowuna-Hammond, was spot on when she concluded in her 2018 article on consumer law and policy in Ghana as follows, and I quote, "The overall consumer protection regime in Ghana remains inadequate and uncoordinated in the absence of a comprehensive and harmonized policy, legal and institutional framework, end quote. The need for such legal framework has long been recognized. The Ghana Trade Policy, for example, proposed the establishment of a consumer protection authority to facilitate consumer remedy, establish codes of practice on advertising and labeling, educate consumers on their rights, strengthen consumer-oriented organizations, and ensure effective representation of consumers on decision-making bodies. This was re-echoed by the Consumer Protection Policy of 2016. Mr. Speaker, the state is required by Article 35, Clause 2 of our national constitution to seek the welfare of all citizens, and as a respected member of the international community, joined by the United Nations Conference on Trade and Development, UNCTAD, to institute a functional consumer protection regime to protect consumers, as well as ensuring their rights in the marketplace. It is to fulfill these obligations that government, under the able and distinguished leadership of the President of the Republic, His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, is working rigorously to ensure the passage of a consumer protection law. I am happy to announce, Mr. Speaker, that in the coming days, I will be signing a consumer protection bill, which will be laid before Cabinet for its consideration and possible approval, and subsequently for the consideration of this august House. In this regard, kindly permit me, Mr. Speaker, to pay glowing tribute to officials of the Ministry of Trade and Industry for the tireless work they have undertaken in getting this bill this far. The overarching objective of the bill is to protect, secure, and defend the rights of consumers through a structured institutional mechanism and legal framework that will ensure that consumers play a significant role in keeping erring businesses in check, promote competition, and ensure regional integration through digital trade and e-commerce. Mr. Speaker, the days when people depended on what they produce are long gone. Today, everyone depends, to some extent, goods and services provided by others. The market dependence of consumers has increased considerably, making it imperative for us to protect consumer rights. With the coming into force of the African Continental Free Trade Area, AFTA, and as host of the AFTA Secretariat, consumer protection law is more important now than ever. The government of President Akufo-Addo is fully committed to the passage of this law. It is my hope that when the time eventually comes, after the bill has passed through the scrutiny of the cabinet of President Akufo-Addo, this august House will respectfully support government to pass this very consequential legislation. I thank you for your attention, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable members, as I stated earlier on, this is a statement on Order 70, and definitely it's not meant for debate. It's meant for members to make just comments, brief comments. Yes. Okay, let me start from here. Yes, Honourable Ablakwa.
I'm most grateful, Right Honourable Speaker, for the opportunity to make on the policy statement that has been presented very eloquently by the caretaker minister at the Ministry of Trade and Industry. Mr. Speaker, I must commend the minister for apprising the House. I have noted with delight that this particular minister always keeps this House informed on matters that are in the works, that are being considered by his ministry and by the executive for that matter, sometimes even before they get to cabinet for cabinet consideration. Mr. Speaker, that practice is very commendable. And I recall that the Right Honourable Speaker himself has urged ministers to follow this path so that Parliament will be brought along, so that we do not become, if you like, just a dumping ground for bills that have been concluded by the executive, where we were not consulted and our views were not considered and were not factored in the bills or policies before they are implemented. So, Mr. Speaker, since this has been a matter that you yourself is on record to have urged ministers to follow this path, I want to commend the respected Minister for Lands and Natural Resources and caretaker Minister for Trade for following this shining example. Mr. Speaker, consumer protection is a very, very important matter. It's a matter that relates to the well-being of citizens. It's a life and death issue. If regulatory bodies are not up and doing, they do not certify that items, consumables, products that the citizenry will purchase and consume are safe. Mr. Speaker, people can suffer injuries that can be permanent, and even that they may be lucky. There have been instances where people have died, and the remedies that have been available for their loved ones, their relations, have been virtually non-existent. As the Honourable Minister has said in his well-researched policy brief, even the courts have raised concern about the limited legal framework that we have for protecting the consumer. And Mr. Speaker, as members of Parliament, all of us have testimonies about times that our constituents have come to us to appeal on their behalf, to fight on their behalf. I have 3 cases currently before the courts related to negligence, related to products that have been consumed which have caused injuries to my constituents. And there is one that very soon there will be judgment, and I'm quite optimistic about the outcome. So it's a timely matter. The only reservation, Mr. Speaker, I have will relate to the institutional framework that the Minister hints at. In the 2023 budget, the Minister for Finance announced, which this House approved, that this year, of the IMF negotiations and the obligations, there will be no creation of new institutions. So that may be a challenge, because if you listen to the Minister carefully, it appears that a new institution is in the offing to deal with the overarching issue of consumer protection. How do we reconcile that bottleneck, that impediment? Will there be some exemption, considering how important this matter is? This is a matter that I believe that the Ghanaian people will welcome some exemption of a sort, so that this new institution can be created. As we create this new institution, Mr. Speaker, I believe that there are so many other departments, units, even the size of government that can give in, that we can rationalize, that we can collapse, so that an important institution like this one can be established by this House. Mr. Speaker, in concluding, I would also like to urge the Honourable Minister. His time, Mr. Speaker, as caretaker minister may be coming to an end soon, when a substantive minister is probably approved by this House. The work will be to ensure that this is broad-based, so that what Cabinet will be approving in the next few weeks will be subjected to broader stakeholder consultations, particularly by the Ghanaian people. I know that there are some consumer protection NGOs who have long raised this matter, the lack of a coordinated consumer protection regime. It will be important to elicit their views and to take on board their concerns, so that we can have a law that finally will serve the needs of everybody and will be seen as a collective process that we have all, committed to. But, Mr. Speaker, very timely intervention. It is an idea whose time has come, and probably we are even late in the day. I noticed that in 2016 there was a consumer protection policy, but this will take us to the next step of having a law and a regulator that will have full legal backing, so that our corporate institutions, corporate Ghana, will know that the regulators are watching. Quality must be assured. Quality is taken for granted. And then there are remedies which can have long-lasting implications. Mr. Speaker, I recall in other jurisdictions, when you know that the regulator is going to raise issues about consumer protection, where you have been found wanting, you have been negligent, you have not performed your duties with high integrity. Mr. Speaker, they shiver because they know even the financial consequences, because sometimes the cost that they have to pay, Mr. Speaker, is no small amount. It has even collapsed. Some business had to, reorganize to come back, and operate within a more preferable, framework. So, Mr. Speaker, this is positive, is good news, is refreshing, and I believe that all of us stand in readiness to support this initiative. And I commend the Minister for taking this bold step. I thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Samuel Atachia.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me the space to make a very brief comment on this very, very important statement, which has been put together by Honorable Samuel Abujinapo, the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, who currently is a caretaker Minister for Trade and Industry. Honorable Speaker, I'm excited that this particular minister, at his debut and triumphant entry into this House, has had a very positive effect on me. Anytime he stands to deliver anything of consequence in terms of our government and where we are going, I find that there is a lot of research and industry. I commend the minister for this kind of culture, the culture of research and intellectual powers. And I pray that nobody should say that this is your first time of coming to Parliament, and therefore you wouldn't want to be counted. Wrong person in this august House. Honorable Speaker, the issue of consumer protection is of critical importance for the future of this country, because of the hard fact that producers would always want to give a shabby treatment to consumers. The appetite for profit sometimes looms so large that the people who should have the benefit of products and services are always at the end of the joke. And it's about time we dealt with those who deliver services. Honorable Speaker, I want to enjoy the immunity I have in this august House to comment on any matter of consequence. And the issues of libel and the rest of them will not touch me because of the powers you've given me to stand here and talk. Honorable Speaker, let me touch on one thing which is of great concern to me, which is how the local airlines in the realm are giving travelers a shabby treatment. Honorable Speaker, if somebody should purchase a ticket and is confirmed and is been given a critical time for you to come to the airport and take off to another destination, I can tell you on authority that it is of no consequence to the airline any longer. Like, you can go to Kotoka International Airport and you'll be marking time for 4 good hours. And all that they will say is that the airline has been delayed. So in terms of a traveler going to waste 4 hours in the airport, and at the end of the travel, probably you have a serious financial engagement with people, is of no consequence to the airlines. And I want to mention a particular airline which is doing this now. That is African World Airlines. Honorable Speaker, we cannot take this any longer. And I'm going to bring the Minister of Transport here to come and explain why Ghanaians should go to the airport and be marking time for so. What kind of abuse is this? We cannot take it. Honorable Speaker, you have heard about the telephony companies as well. In this country, holding a mobile is becoming something of a decorative or something of decorative value, not to have and good delivery. You call somebody who is sitting right by you, you're using the same telephony company, and said it's out of coverage area. Is it not a con job which is going on in this country? And we seem to be clapping for them. How can we say we are using cell phone that in the realm called Ghana and Santa, if you are roaming, anytime you place a call, somebody will take the call. The antiquity of going to what's it called? I don't know whether it was a post office or a P&T, as they call it, to go and place a call. We don't have it. It was an antiquated arrangement that people go to by reason of geography and location. But when you are holding a mobile phone, what they are ministering to the public is that anywhere you are, if you place a call, you should be able to talk to somebody. So this is an area that we should look at critically, that in the name of profit, these telephony companies will not abuse us any longer, because the abuse is too much. And what is even worse is the fact that the charges are high, and Santa, even at close proximity, you cannot hear the voice of the one you are talking to. So I am of the humble view that when we are addressing the issue of consumer protection, Ghanaians should not be taken for granted. Honorable Speaker, I am also excited about the fact that there is a need to have a comprehensive bill to address all the concerns of consumer protection. But what is very, very, very important is that when you present a bill and it's supposed to protect consumers, the power of the bill is a sanction regime. Honorable Speaker, we hear when the bill is being passed, but I will be very much interested in the sanction regime, so that the traducers of the law are punished. Honorable Speaker, if you have a very good law, but the sanction regime is weak, they take us for granted. They make their supernormal profits, and they tell you go to hell. If you don't like this mobile phone company, go to another mobile phone company in the same realm. Honorable Speaker, this House, when it becomes due for us to consider the bill, we should look at the sanction regime. And that will wake up those who are producing, the services to take care of the needs of the consumers. I think this is one of the best things I've heard at the beginning of this session. And once again, I commend the good minister who's put this thing together. Whatever there is, whoever will become the substantive minister for trade, I think will be able to continue. Sorry? Oh, okay. Honorable Speaker, I think my leader wants to be the appointment committee. Please don't become one yet, and let him go through. That's why I said whoever will become. What if he's refused? So, Honorable Speaker, I know this is a healthy. Yes. So, Honorable Speaker, I thank you so much that you recognize me and This is a modest contribution I want to add to the statement by Honorable John Samuel, my namesake, Samuel Abujinapo. I'm grateful to you.
Yes, Honorable Rashid Perko.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to comment on this statement presented by the Minister of Lands and Natural Resources and also the caretaker minister for trade. Mr. Speaker, I join my friends to commend the minister for his forthrightness and commitment to often inform Parliament about issues that are still under planning, are still not formally presented to the House, and yet would require the House to get information on them before bills are brought here for consideration. So, Minister, this practice, Mr. Chairman, this practice is worthy emulating. Upon your own ever request for minister to do the same, this issue he has brought about is very critical. On many occasions, we have purchased goods and services and later on regret for what we have done. Instances exist when people even buy fuel into their vehicles and later on find that the fuel quality has been reduced to the fact that, to the extent that the engine itself of the vehicle is damaged. Several other instances exist. An instance exists where, at one point, Mr. Speaker, there was a hue and cry about some kind of drugs imported into this country. We were all worried about the kind of drugs. We were told that the drugs were fake, but eventually, nothing was said about it. It got absorbed into the system. I'm very sure people may have lost lives because of that. And so consumer protection is critical. It emphasizes the rights of consumers, citizens, to enjoy the required kind of services they acquire or they want to acquire with the resources they have. And it requires also that there must be some kind of regulatory system and some kind of a legal system that will deal with defrauders. Mr. Speaker, if people are allowed their way, it's often a competition. People want to outcompete their others and make more profit. In any situation where profit is the motive of the producers and sellers of their products, they want to outdo each other. In the course of that, so many things are done to the detriment of the consumer. And so it's necessary that we are often protected. And in the particular instance of Ghana, we know that the alertness of the citizen is not so to the extent that we can often see these things happening. There's often the need to buy something at a cheaper price. And often people come here and are deceived and they go back and they regret forever coming to Ghana. I visited someone in Dubai, and he regretted ever coming to Ghana. He came to buy gold, and he was given a sample. After buying the final product, he took it out and was found that the 5 million Ghana cedis he spent buying the gold was just for nothing at all, was for something resembling gold, but no gold itself. It might be as a result of the consumer himself not taking due diligence, paying due diligence to what they are doing. But often there must be a rule set by a legal system that will protect such people. That when such people are so much abused, there must be some way out in taking on the abuser, to the legal system to pay for what they have done. Mr. Speaker, I believe that the streamline of the policies coming from the trade minister is very important. Let us see what eventually he's going to bring here. I'm happy he requested that when he brings up the proposals, Parliament will be willing to support. I don't think that any single Ghanaian who is sitting here will be willing to oppose or will want to oppose any such legal frame brought here for us to accept, endorse, and for some regulations to come out of it to protect us. It is important. And the last point is that, Mr. Speaker, sometimes it goes deeper to even the mainstay of this economy, the cocoa industry. We've had situations where fake products are sold to people and eventually give a wrong impression about what we produce here. It attacks the very essence of our products. We are seen to be the best producers of cocoa in this country. And sometimes people present other products that doesn't look like ours. And it goes to affect the totality of the image of the nation completely. So, Mr. Speaker, I think that this statement is very important, and we'll be willing to follow it to the logical conclusion to see that it is implemented. Let us see the minister present what he has done to the incoming minister, so that in the end we can see a belated policy. It's belated because it should have been existing by now. A belated policy coming, and we all support it to get it in place to make sure we don't suffer the consequence of somebody's personal interest of defrauding others to outcompete others and to give pain to the final consumer. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the occasion, for the opportunity.
Yes.
Right, Honourable Speaker, I thank you for the opportunity to make brief comments about this statement made by our colleague, the caretaker Minister for Trade and Industry. I add my voice to those who believe this statement is timely. I'm just wondering, since the World Consumer Protection Day is 15th of March, why he's making the statement 1 month ahead of schedule? Are you not going to be around? But it's just being curious. The first time I've seen a minister make a statement 1 month ahead of the event itself. Mr. Speaker, I think this is a very important statement. And I look forward to see the content of this policy. Mr. Speaker, ever so often we have taken so many things in this country for granted, and Ghanaians have suffered over the years without any remedy. Whether it's somebody who bought a painkiller in the form of a paracetamol or something and just realized that the medicine couldn't do what the medicine is supposed to do, or somebody goes to access a service and just realize that the service is substandard. Even on the part of government, don't we have to have a situation where, if not a major fault, does Electricity Company of Ghana have the right to take out my light as long as they need? Can the water supply to a community be cut off for as long as it is without a major fault? Mr. Speaker, for instance, if you take today, I get to not understand why even buildings put up today, even Parliament, you get to the gate of an institution, they say taxis, and I keep asking, are taxis having a very specific security threat? In today's world, taxis are not only the vehicles with the yellow paint by their side. So when you say taxis are not allowed, and a disabled person needed to come to Parliament, the only way he can come to Parliament is to take a taxi. You say taxis are not allowed. Is that not part of a consumer, a situation we need to deal with, Mr. Speaker? Take, for instance, Mr. Speaker, we have passed the Persons with Disability Act in 2006. That act says that 10 years after the implementation of that act, public buildings or owners of public buildings should take steps to make sure that those buildings are accessible. Mr. Speaker, that law still exists. Majority of buildings in this country, including Parliament, is not fit for purpose when it comes to adherence to disability. But the law is there. We'll be merely passing this act. It's about putting in the measures that both the service providers or the goods providers and the consumers would have a basis for demanding the standards that are required. And if that standard is, goes below, there will be a remedy. And that is why I think that this proposal is very important. So I'll go back to the point that this, if it becomes law, will be very interesting. I will be looking forward to participate in the deliberation and to let the minister know that personally, taxis are not allowed. You should investigate that one as well, because I think it's discriminatory. Because you see, an Uber can come into parliament, an Uber can go to a hotel. So when you say taxis are not allowed, is it the case that the security of this country says that taxis possess a particular security threat which needed to be addressed? I think that is the point I'm making. And for me, this law, if it comes to effect, would also compel government better services. Like I said, I don't think government can, or Ghana Water Company can just take out water supply to a community perpetually. If it's a major fault, they are informed. But there has to be a cut-off point. You cannot take out electricity to a medical facility. There has to be a reason why these things happen. If we can do all these things, I believe we can improve the quality of life of our people. And specifically, this will also require that Ghana Standards Authority is well equipped to be able to monitor the things, especially the quality of things that are imported into this country. I could see my good friend, the Great Accra Regional Minister, was agitating. Maybe he can advocate us as to why taxis are not allowed. It's still something in this country we have to tolerate. I don't think it's appropriate. Mr. Speaker, we look forward to this bill, and we all participate in making it a law that actually protects the people of this country. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Yes, honorable members, let me on your behalf thank the Minister for always giving Parliament prior notice of very key interventions that the Ministry wants to make, particularly dealing with policy and legislation. I think the industry of the Minister needs commendation, and I'll call on other ministers to emulate that good example, not just in this regime, but in the future regimes. We expect to see that cooperation between Parliament and the executive. It gives us enough opportunity to do research, prepare, and then make inputs into what government is going to do. There are a lot of key policies that we are having challenges with now in this country because Parliament was not involved at all. And we're not just dealing with goods, we're also services. And I'm sure most of you now are being questioned about how some Court of Appeals are being closed down and others are being moved to Kumasi and Accra. And these are things that I think we should all be involved in. And Parliament represents the people. And you know, all the power belongs to the people. And some of these issues, we need to work together so that when they come up, you are all in the position to explain to the people why that, because they have a lot of implications. Access to judgment, costs, implications, and all those things are there. How do you explain this? I think that the Minister has given a very good lesson of himself, and we all need to commend him. So, Minister, recommendations from the House, continue the good works, and I'm sure, essentially, the President himself will accordingly reward you. Thank you so much for coming. Honourable members, we move to, at the commencement of public business, item 7, presentation of papers. We have a number of papers to be laid, and particularly the urgent one, 7C, by the chairman of the committee, report of the Committee of Selection on the recomposition of committees. I chair the committee and I'm presiding, so I will ask the First Deputy Speaker to lay the report forward on my behalf. First Deputy Speaker, item 7C.
Reports of the Committee of Selection on the recomposition of committees.
Honourable members, the report is laid accordingly and is for distribution to all members. Yes, leadership of majority. Any more papers to be laid?
No, Mr. Speaker.
Okay. Then we move on to item 8, bills. No. Then we'll take item 9, which is motion. First Deputy Speaker can move that motion, a procedural motion for us to take the report. It's an urgent report that we need to work on. Report of the Committee of Selection.
Very well. Mr. Speaker, I rise to move that the motion numbered 9 on page 6 of today's order paper be taken today. I so move.
Motion moved. Any seconder?
Mr. Speaker, I second the motion.
Moved and seconded for the consideration of the House. Since it's a procedural motion, I put the question. Those in favor say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. The motion is carried. We'll now move on to the substantive motion, which is item 10. Item 10, First Deputy Speaker, please kindly move the motion.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to move that this Honourable House adopt the report of the Committee of Selection on the recomposition of the committees of the House. Mr. Speaker, I will read the highlights of the report while the table office captures the report in its entirety. At the beginning of this meeting, the Minority Caucus effected some changes to the membership of the leadership. And Mr. Speaker, the changes necessitated the recomposition of some of the committees in order to ensure that there's a smooth running and that indeed the leadership of the House, as is the practice, represented particular caucus. The committee therefore met and reconsidered the composition of the membership of the committees, having regard to the importance of their mandate and the leadership role to be played by the new leaders of the majority in the committees. The recomposition was based on the standing orders of Parliament and the ratio 138-137, representing the numerical strength of the two caucuses, conventions and practices of the House. Mr. Speaker, the respective committees and the changes are annexed to the report, and I conclude that the committee recommends that the House adopts its report and approve the changes as contained in the annexes. I so move, Mr. Speaker.
Motion moved. Any seconder? Yes, please.
Right, Honourable Speaker, I rise to second the motion as moved by the First Deputy Speaker, and also to just make a few comments. Indeed, these changes are required simply to afford the new leadership of the minority the opportunity to participate in the specific committee deliberations and to be able to vote. So the changes are limited to only those committees at this stage, Mr. Speaker. I encourage colleagues to approve these changes to allow the new leadership of the minority to participate as members of these committees. That's so support, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable members, motion moved and seconded is for the consideration of the House. Yes, Deputy Majority Leader.
Well, Mr. Speaker, as the Chief Whip said, it is necessary these changes. My only hope is that they consulted and engaged their colleagues who are moving out of the committee. As he's saying, we want us to support it. We are supporting this so that you can participate in the committees such as business committee, where you can't be in leadership and not be a member. But I hope that your predecessors, the committees that you place them, you engage them extensively before placing them there, if you did. Oh, this is not an Zimifia assembly. It's a matter for all of us. So, because if you don't do that, you can't function well. That's all I'm trying to say. Mr. Speaker, he says that he consulted and engaged them. So, Mr. Speaker, having assured me of that, I'm not opposed to it.
Yes, Honourable Ablakwa.
I'm grateful, Right Honourable Speaker. Right Honourable Speaker, mine is to commend you for your leadership and how swiftly you have discharged your duties as chair of the selection committee. Mr. Speaker, since we returned for this third session of the 8th Parliament, there has been considerable anxiety. Some civil society analysts were wondering whether we can function effectively, if there will be turbulence, and if government business will be delayed or will be interrupted because of the changes that were effected on the front bench of the minority leadership. Mr. Speaker, that so far your towering leadership has really calmed the waters, and I am particularly impressed with how very efficiently the selection committee has met to quickly reconstitute the committees. I recall that when the business statement was presented last week, the Deputy Majority Leader said that they only entertained the new leadership at the meeting as observers, and that it was just to be more or less. But now it's clear that after today's exercise, they can fully function, and they will have the legal mandate and authority to operate. Mr. Speaker, I can assure the Deputy Majority Leader that so far our caucus is united. Everything the leaders are doing, they are consulting extensively, and there is no cause for alarm. Everybody is committed to discharge their duties in the interest of the country, and which must function efficiently so that our democracy will grow and will thrive. Mr. Speaker, I also note that there has been some conscious effort by some in the new leadership to relinquish some of their roles. Some committees that they were serving on earlier, they have vacated those committees and given that to others. It is a very good sign, and shows that they will not be interested in just grabbing everything on sight. So that is exemplary, that is inspiring, and I want to commend the new leaders for also creating space for particularly the younger ones to also come up and to have opportunities to serve on these committees. Having said that, Mr. Speaker, I commend you once again for the urgency with which you have dealt with this matter to calm waters and to ensure that there is swift and unimpeded business in the House. I thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable members, those in favour say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. The motion is carried. Approval has been given to the recomposition of the committees that have clearly been stated in the report, and they take immediate effect. Honourable members will be getting similar reports on other changes. We are likely to do one for the changes that are taking place in the majority side. And so please, members, as the Deputy Majority Leader indicated, let's continue with the consultation. Nobody should be left out in this matter. We have to move together as a family. So with this, I want to thank members for your understanding and cooperation. And then we move on to the next items. Bench, is there any particular item you want us to take?
Mr. Speaker, no.
Well, then I'll allow the First Deputy Speaker to take over. There are a number of statements which you have to take on for today, 2 or 3 statements, short ones, before we go on adjournment. Yeah, so we go back to item 6, statements. Honourable members, First Deputy Speaker to take the chair.
Honourable members. Yes, leader.
Mr. Speaker, we have agreed to take one so that we can adjourn. In fact, it looks like members who submitted their statements have not even circulated for others to make meaningful input. So, Mr. Speaker, I think the sense of the House is that we even adjourn and take it tomorrow. Kwame.
We don't know the nature of the statement, so maybe the Speaker can guide us. I'm not even sure whether the
Honourable members, I admitted 2 statements. One was submitted yesterday. It is in the name of the Honourable Member for Tamale North, Honourable Alassane Saibu Suhini. I haven't seen him in the House today. The other one is in the name of the Honourable Member for Domia Bra Obum, Honourable Sophia Karin Agwaku. Yes, are you ready to take that one today?
Mr. Speaker, the member for Domiabo Obom is in the House. However, she says she's not ready. Are you ready
to listen to her?
Yeah, Mr.
If
Speaker,
she says she's not ready, I'll take it. But
no.
Can you ready hear her say I am not
Mr.
ready?
Speaker, she says she's not ready.
She says.
No. If you are ready, we are ready for you. You are not ready, fine. Yes, Mr. Speaker, she says she's not ready, but we are ready for her.
Mr. Speaker,
yes.
You were kind enough to admit these 2 statements from my colleagues. Unfortunately, the first person you called is not in the chamber, and my colleague just told me that she was not informed earlier, so she's unable to make the statement now. So, Mr. Speaker, on that occasion, I would request the leader to make an application for an adjournment with your pleasure.
Very well.
Mr. Speaker.
Yes.
Just to make small corrections. So just a correction.
Honorable Leader.
Mr. Speaker.
Are you going to move the motion for
Yes,
adjournment?
Mr. Speaker, I'm going to do so.
Kindly do that.
Yes. Mr. Speaker, the reason for this application is born out of the fact that Honorable Member for Domi Obom was not ready, was called to make a statement. And she says that she should have been informed. Obom Domi Abra, Honorable Akwaku. Mr. Speaker, since it is not 2 o'clock yet, we are not in your hands. I accordingly move this House to adjourn till 10 in the forenoon of tomorrow. Assume.
Mr. Speaker, I second the motion.
Yes. Yes, Honorable.
Right, Mr. Speaker, I second the motion for adjournment.
Honorable members, the motion for adjournment has been moved and seconded. All in favor of the House adopting the motion, say aye. All against, say no. The ayes have it. The House is adjourned till Thursday, February 16, 2023 at 10 o'clock in the forenoon.